Hi all, Agent here, and we are going to do some Warlock gameplay. A Warlock class bot is a bot that has EMP, shield, and blink and or different or more modules. So this is the build. It used to have nanos on it. It is on the shop right now, published under a different account name. I believe it is published under Agent 00 Kevin. It is a full 2000 CPU build. Got some E-plates for a little damage soaking. And not a whole lot of redundancy on guns. I've only got 9 Wasp lasers on it because I ran out of CPU. Like I said, this was originally a 6 nano binder bot. And when they nerfed those, I decided that it just wasn't worth having around anymore. So match start, my team always goes for the closed tower. I always come to the middle tower, and I'm going to try to capture that tower before the enemy team captures their tower. I actually like to try to capture this tower before the whole rest of my team manages to cap their tower, and it's pretty close. 4 connector strips now, as you can see. I nosed up to the corner just like I used to show you guys with the 2 connector strips. It works the exact same way. It just takes a little bit longer. With the Wasp lasers, it's pretty quick. It doesn't take a whole lot longer than it did for the 2 connector strips, and you can position yourself in a good spot to hit all 4 of those strips with minimal movement. You don't have to fly around the whole damn tower. You can get right down there and look up and cap that way. So now I'm going to move over here, help my team out a little bit with my abilities. I've got a shield, I've got an EMP, and I've got a blink to save my ass when I overextend. So we're going to use the shield. Unfortunately, everybody was kind of falling back and hanging out. I don't have enough energy for blink. I tried to get out of there. I probably should have just strafed sideways or went forward to get out of it. That's okay. We got lucky and the enemies targeted somebody else. We're kind of surrounded right now. So what I want to do is get out of here. I pop a shield, so I want to go ahead and try to fight this guy. I want to remove his second chain gun and help my ally out. The intention was actually to run away, but I changed that when I saw he was about to finish off one of my allies. I like to help out my teammates. It helps you win. A lot of people will run away and let him die. In this case, I did have to run away from the shotgun. There's nothing I could do. He probably would have crippled me. He killed the other guy, maybe killed both of us. So my only choice to save myself was to blink out of there. I will save myself. I won't hang around and die just to save an ally. But I will try within reason to save my allies. It's always better to have more people in the game and not waiting on respawn. Early on, it's not such a big deal when your overclock levels are low because respawn times are fast, but it does still remove them from the front lines of the battle. So if you're on the front lines and you're on the enemy side of the map, it can still be pretty hurtful to lose another player over there. So I always try to help him out. I'm going to try to catch this guy in the EMP, but I was a little bit late. He managed to step out of it. He's got those shotguns, and we've also got PSK all over me, and I've got a fair amount of electroplates, electro shields on this build. So those PSKs can actually be fairly scary because they can strip that shell off pretty quickly and reveal just my armor cubes and the softer inside of the bot. It doesn't rely on the electro shields, but it does use them pretty extensively. When you're fighting other bots, it's nice because it gives you a lot of protection. You maintain your structure until the shields have been completely depleted and removed. At which point, as you can see, I don't have like a lot of exposed parts under the shields. I still have armor underneath. I feel like if you're going to use shields, that is the way to use them. So I got lucky here, got some friends to help out. He blasted like the whole front inside of my bot out with that shotgun blast. But I've still got enough hovers in the back to kind of hang out, so to say, and chase him down. So I did anyway because I have a special distaste for players who mount big guns and think that that's going to make them good at the game, because it's not. They tend to make a lot of bad decisions. They will get a cheap kill on you now and then. Usually when that happens, your allies will just turn right around and kill them. So they're not actually accomplishing anything other than taking you out of the game. And if you're a good player, you're probably going to be more effective than them. So I guess they are accomplishing removal of a better player, and then they trade for themselves, which aren't very effective in their own right. So I do like to help finish bots a lot with these wasps. When you're using wasps against like that partial gun bed we saw earlier, he was already heavily damaged. I like to try to tunnel right through the middle of them. It's the best way to approach it. If you're trying to shoot their guns off and you have less guns than them, it may not work out too well because they will usually shoot your guns off or deal a lot of damage first before you are able to remove theirs. So what I'll do is I'll try to carve right through the middle of their bot, and it works a fair amount of the time. I'm not going to sit here and say it works every time you do it, but that's what the blink is for. If you can tell it's not working, pop your shield, pop your EMP, pop your blink, and get the heck out of there and find a different way to approach that problem. So we're going to help our allies out again. Focus fire is important when you're playing this game. A lot of people look at it as kill stealing and they'll go after their own targets, and that's really not, it's not the case. You're focusing enemies down one by one, and that is how clans like IR and AC play. The more competitive clans and Buff and Hex, they will focus you down one by one. All 4 or 5 of them, or how many ever there are in a match, will all focus on the same player and just utterly dominate them. They'll just destroy them so quickly because they have the focused fire from 4 or 5 different bots on them. You cannot stand up to that. No matter how tough you are, it's not possible to stand up to that kind of abuse. So that's how they function, and that's how I try to function even when I'm playing with randoms, is I will shoot at a target that someone else is shooting at if I'm with the rest of my team. Now in this case, I'm trying to defend a tower, which I do fairly often against multiple opponents, so I've got to address them one by one. I don't want to pop my EMP or my shields too soon. That may have been a little bit of a waste of a shield. Now we've got the other guy coming over to fight. He's got some what looks to be laser disintegrators on there. They deal pretty heavy damage, so we're going to have to blink out. We did achieve the goal, though, of pulling them off of the tower. You're not going to usually be able to stand toe-to-toe with even 2 different bots and kill them both unless they're poorly constructed, and both of those bots are built fairly well. One's pretty cheesy with the PSKs, but he's got enough cubes to stand up to the Wasp lasers for a fair amount. So instead of trying to fight them all, I'll stun them, and that buys you a little bit of time with the EMP because they're stunned. Then they have to regenerate their energy before they can do anything. And that guy was doing was he was trying to regenerate enough energy to hit me with the EMP, but he missed. And even if he'd got me in the middle of it, I was kind of expecting him to do that. He must be the guy that got me earlier. So may or may not have had enough energy to blink out of it, but I would have strafed or moved forward out of it. Strategy a lot of guys use when they use that EMP is to put it, because your first reaction is to back out of it as soon as you hear it, because you don't have a whole lot of time to react. So everybody wants to back out of it. Well, a lot of times they'll offset it just a little bit to where it's faster to go forward out of it than it is backwards out of it. And in my case, with my thrusters and stuff, it is definitely going to be faster to go forward. But even I, with the experience I have in this game, I've been playing it since 2014, sometimes I'll still panic a little bit too and try to back out of it instead of going forward out of it. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't think anybody out there is going to be a perfect player. So again, using EMP to stun this guy and to help delay them from taking this tower back to where I can get more of my allies over here to help out. Shield protects me from rails, so I can sit right here and keep doing what I'm doing for a few more seconds. By then, the rail's probably going to be damaged or dead, and that's what's happening here. Benefit of the Wasps, if you notice, I was low on energy, but I was still able to deal a fair amount of DPS because their energy consumption is low. So when you run out of energy, it's not as bad as running out of energy with something like the laser disintegrators or vaporizers. As you go lower in tier, the lack of energy when you run out is less and less penalizing. So there's another draw of using these Wasp lasers as opposed to higher tier lasers. They're accurate enough to use at range. Disintegrators do pack a bigger punch. I look at it as Wasps are more like sanding your opponent down, and Disintegrators are more like chiseling big chunks out of your opponent. They have very similar DPS, but they work in different ways. So it usually takes you longer with Wasps, even though they deal about the same DPS, because you have to metaphorically sand through their armor instead of chipping big chunks out of it and boring more of an even hole, taking larger chunks out with the higher tier lasers. But with a 2000 CPU build, you're not going to have enough sustained firepower with higher tier lasers to be able to do a lot of damage, and to be able to do some of the things you see me doing in this, like taking on multiple opponents. We're going to blink right out of that. And the final benefit, I think, to using Wasp lasers is that they're the smallest lasers, they're the hardest to hit, so it's harder for them to shoot your guns off, and you need a little less redundancy. A lot of people still use like 30 of them on a gun bed, and that's perfectly okay. So we took a lot of damage right there. They were coming at me, so I turned around and I popped my EMP because that was the only module I had left. That way they couldn't pursue me right through that circle without being stunned. They were going to have to go around or stop, which bought me a little bit more time to get out of there. And as you can see, it was just enough time to get out of there with the main shell of my bot intact, the main armor shell intact, and all of my movement parts still. So we're able to get right back in the fight. Just a 10-second cooldown to heal, and then we are right back over here helping our team out. This is an important moment, actually, this whole match so far. What you see us and me doing over here is we're suppressing these enemies. We're not allowing them to get out and take a tower. Tried to defend this one, didn't quite make it in time. They did chip it down. They were sneaking out of the right side of their base, and I caught them a few times to stop them. Some of my allies caught them, but it looks like the guy got out and took this tower. But luckily, we've got high overclock levels now. We're just going to cap it right back, respawn anyone on our team that's dead, and I'm going to go right back over to suppressing them until the moment's right to move into their base and start working on the reactor. Now, that's what I tried a couple minutes ago in the match, but it was a little bit too early. They're spawning a little too fast. There's too many of them in there, and that's when I had to pop that EMP as a last resort to buy me a couple more seconds to let that blink come off the cooldown and get the heck out of there. But now the path looks clear. We've got some enemies on respawn. We've just got one of them in the base that's heavily damaged. I'm going to ignore him right now because I've got high overclock level. I can chew right through these crystals. We need to get this backside taken care of. As the match goes on, that's going to be the harder side to get to. You can't shoot it from a distance. Then we move over to what's left and finish the match up. So that's kind of how you play a Warlock style build with multiple modules. Let's check our score out. We did number 2 in damage with Wasp lasers, and we did number 1 in score. So that's how you play Warlock. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.